right, we'll get started. So we are at the long-awaited final panel of the day. All that stands between you and a cocktail reception, which will be right out there, out in freedom, in the outdoors, in nature. So this is a panel on higher education and its connections to the K through 12 classical world. So it seems to me that there is at least one universal law of nature. It's that if you bring together two or more professors for any extended period of time, and they get to talking, eventually someone's going to start complaining about, quote, undergraduates these days. And they will then wonder, quote, what exactly are they learning in K through 12, right? An associated law of nature is that these professors will never take the next step of wondering what future K through 12 teachers are being taught by people like them during their college years, right? But perhaps the second law of nature is starting to break down a bit, since we are going to ask that question during this panel. Namely, how can higher education better work with our K through 12 partners? So if we could just have everyone briefly introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Peter.
Sure. My name is Peter Koritansky. I'm the director of the Center for Civics, Culture, and Society at Cleveland State University. I spent the last 20 years in Canada, on the east coast of Canada, as a faculty member and department chair, and have just been at Cleveland State since June 1st. So I'm just getting my feet wet, but it's been quite a 2 months, very busy 2 months. A lot of work, but a lot of very fun work, and I'm really looking forward to engaging with you all about the possible connection between higher education and the classical academic movement that's going on in this state and across the country. So I'll leave it at that for now and let my colleagues introduce.
I'm Chris Green. I've spent the last 19 years as a law professor. So I'm transitioning from the law world to the undergraduate world, from the teaching and researching world to the administering world, and from the what am I doing now? Since the middle of May, I've been one of the associate directors at the Chase Center, and switching from Mississippi back to the Midwest. So I didn't grow up in Ohio, but if you talk to people in Mississippi, they will tell you I'm really from Ohio, because my mom grew up in Toledo, my grandma grew up in Alliance. Oh, no, not in Alliance. She went to school in Alliance. She grew up in Minerva, Ohio. So, but for the last maybe 15, 16 years, I've been a homeschooling dad. According to Jake's definition, I think we were 7 for 7. But when our first daughter is heading off to Northwestern in September, so she'll be a Columbus resident for a month. When she was born in December 2006, we got a stack of 6 books from a friend of ours, one of which was a book about Charlotte Mason education. I'm looking to see if anybody is about to throw stuff. Okay, thumbs up, good. My wife tells me you can start fights online. You can lose friends forever by just asking the question, is Charlotte Mason classical? You will find very, very vehement yeses, very, very vehement no's, but we started with dollars, Greek myths. My daughter learned Latin. My 2 sons, I've been kind of a homeschooling dad, a robotics dad for the 2 sons, but that's what I've been doing. And one of the things I'm doing as associate director, working on our K-12 initiatives. I'll talk in a minute about stuff John and I have been tormented by in the last month, which may create great opportunities for the K-12 space.
Thanks. So as you heard earlier, I'm passionate about classical education. It's something that served our kids really well. And one of the things that I see the Chase Center and the other centers around Ohio as being able to do is to provide additional resources to the K through 12 space, especially the classical space, to help you all do what you do even better.
All right, thank you. So start with you again, Peter. Could you please share for a few minutes about your new center at Cleveland State?
Okay, well, the Center for Civics, Culture, and Society at Cleveland State was technically created in 2023, along with the other 4 centers across the state. but the 3 of the 5 centers have gotten a little bit of a later start just because the directors were hired so much later. Like I said, I started June 1st. These 5 centers were created, as many of you probably know, by the Ohio General Assembly. And I think that probably taking the liberty to speak quite broadly and to speak on behalf of my 4 other colleagues across the state is that there is a sense, and I think a very accurate sense, that we are going through a kind of a crisis in higher education, a crisis that you see probably in K through 12 education as well, but a crisis in higher education and really just culturally across the country, that we are losing confidence in the founding principles of our society. Losing confidence in the founding principles of our society, meaning the United States of America. Lee mentioned the law students who have very little understanding of the Constitution. But more broadly than that, losing confidence in the broader Western principles out of which the American regime has emerged and continues to develop. And it's really there that the civic centers, and I think that, I don't know if this was by design, but it really does seem to be, as I discuss our plans, as we discuss our plans, the 5 of us, we really do seem to be of one mind that a revitalization in civics education really needs to involve a revitalization in and recommitment to the principles of Western civilization, writ somewhat large, but these centers are not going to be just reiterating how a bill becomes a law or the understanding what the various articles of the Constitution are about, but really to delve deeply into the core texts, the core ideas, and the core debates that form what Western civilization is all about. It's going to involve a return to core texts. It's going to involve a return to a classroom setting where students have to look each other in the eye and debate difficult topics. It's going to return to a situation where students at the undergraduate level will learn or relearn how to disagree without becoming disagreeable, how to have a conversation with one another where the only recognized authority in the room is the authority of reason itself. These are virtues that are being lost, they're slipping away. And really, I believe it's a gift from God that the Ohio General Assembly has recognized this and has taken some very decisive steps as to do something about it. So these centers are going to be a great blessing to the state. They're very conveniently cascaded geographically across the state, and there is a very natural partnership between classical education in Ohio and our 5 centers. Just think about this. So we're gonna be bringing in the next 12 months, probably 40 or 50 brand new faculty members, professors who would not have otherwise been in Ohio, but all of whom profoundly share the same understanding of education that you all possess. We can be a tremendous resource to you, and hopefully you can be one to us as well in terms of professional development. And I would love to hear from some of you as to how a local university that really does value and cherish both the form and the content of education that you all cherish can help you, can serve you, and we serve for the benefit of the state of Ohio, and that is what we want to promote with everything that we have. So that's a little bit about the centers and about their history. I just wanted to say, one of the things that really got me excited about being the next director of the center at Cleveland State is just to know that Ohio parents will have an opportunity to send their children to a university to get an education in the great books, the great ideas of the American and Western tradition, and not necessarily have to pay $40,000 or $50,000 to do it. They can pay in-state tuition. Their children can still live at home, and this is something that is being brought to not just higher education, but public higher education, and that's really exciting to me. And so, anyway, I won't monopolize the microphone anymore, but that's what I have to say about that question.
Thank you.
You can monopolize your microphone. We have 4 of them. So I wanted to talk about two things. One is I really wanted to highlight the work that one of the friends of Chase, Stefan Levertu, raise your hand a little higher. So Stefan is our big empirical guy, and he has done a huge amount of gathering of data, analysis, large scale, maybe capital L, large scale statistical analyses about the performance of various sorts of K-12 education. And he has he published in lots of economic policy journals, published with the Rand Corporation, Thomas B. Fordham Institute, and he's been an expert. So Lee and I have been law professors, but Stefan has actually been an expert in a lawsuit against the state about these private scholarships. And I mean, y'all know. I mean, you just look at the students. A lot of the data is qualitative, but you can tell this is a different model that is, you can demonstrate these things if you have the help of friends like Stefan. So I do encourage you to get to know him to the extent that you want to try to show something. He can help show it with data. So on a somewhat related front. So what have John and I been working on last month? So the Department of Education still exists, still doing some things. And one of the things they're doing, of course, is getting ready to celebrate so there's a difference of opinion on this. The semi-quincentennial is one way. I was taught in 1996. So Princeton was started in 1746. My wife graduated in 1996. I was taught that the way to celebrate a 250th anniversary was to call it the bicenquinquagenary. So 200 bison and then quin, five tens, quinquagenary. So the idea is, I guess it's hopeful thinking, well, we'll eventually make it to 500 years. This is just halfway there. But anyway, the bicenquinquagenary of the Declaration of Independence. Department of Education, it says, hey, Civic Center. I mean, it's actually, it's like, are you a Civic Center? You get more points. But oh my word, the Department of Education, some of y'all have dealt with the Department of Ed. That is really quite an interesting set of criteria they have. So among the things John and I have been doing is putting together measurable criteria for what counts as successful celebration of the Declaration of Independence. So coming up with a reflective patriotismometer and making sure the settings on that go up. What are we going to do? So with the pitch, and I have good reason to think this is probably going to be funded. We are going to put on the next 3 years simulation exercises for the Declaration of Independence. So it's the spring of 1776. You're Benjamin Franklin. You're John Adams. And you're Thomas Jefferson. And you're kind of a simulation Continental Congress, Second Continental Congress. King George has just delivered the song from Hamilton, You'll Be Back. What are you going to do? So a simulation exercise for that. The idea is bring in some teachers to kind of talk about background to the Declaration, go through the simulation exercise, do some later things, and then that exercise, hoping to get some good video of it, make it available to the world, and then take that exercise, do it for K-12 people. And I'm curious how young you could go. I mean, you probably could go to 10, 11-year-olds. My kids, when they were 10 or 11, they would have eaten this up. So next year, so June 2026, talk about the Declaration. June 2027, talk about simulated Philadelphia Convention for the Constitution. Next year after that, simulated Bill of Rights, so the first Congress talking about the Bill of Rights. At some point, we should go back and do the simulated 1787 Northwest Ordinance. So you're in New York, you're not in Philadelphia, and you're debating what should happen with this thing that's going to become Ohio. So at some point, so this may become a whole thing where we simulate different things. I would love if we could do stuff with the drama department, but anyway, we're just trying to get material done by our faculty that'll be useful to K-12, that'll get people interested, that'll really, make American history exciting and obviously relevant, and increase people's reflective patriotism. I mean, that's genuinely what we're trying to do. We're not going to measure it with a scientific instrument, but we are, make people love their country a little bit more reflectively.
I was just going to piggyback a little bit on what Peter had said. So when you think about the state of higher education, another way to characterize what Peter had said and building on the things that Chris described us as trying to do is that Americans have become very skeptical of higher ed, especially public higher ed, but not exclusively public higher ed, and you're all familiar with that. And one way to think about that is, so when the polling data looks at Americans and asks them why they've come to mistrust higher ed, they give two basic reasons that are, I think, related. So one reason is that a vast majority of Americans now think that higher ed is primarily in the business of what the respondents characterize as indoctrination as opposed to teaching. And so what you all are doing, what we described today, right? What is it that you all are doing? You all are helping students have access to the good and the true and the beautiful through all the different branches of knowledge that you're introducing students to. And people see higher ed as not doing that. And what the civic centers are trying to do is return at least a part of higher ed to a continuation, age appropriately of course, the good work that you all are doing. And second, related, many Americans have become skeptical of higher ed because they think it's not much of a value proposition. So why would I pay tens of thousands of dollars to go to an Ivy League school with something called an art degree where I'm being indoctrinated that Western art is bad and this other kind of abstract art is good? That's just one example of the broader phenomenon that people think that their students aren't getting something that's going to be valuable to them either as individuals, becoming great men and women, or remuneratively when it goes out to live the life in a profession. And so the civic centers are bringing an education, and each of us will do something I think similar but slightly different, and so see us develop over time. What the Chase Center is going to do is build out in three basic ways. So one degree that we're going to offer starting in the fall of 26 is Civics, Law, and Leadership. And it's going to prepare young people to live lives as citizens in whatever path God calls them. And you can tell from the labels, civics, law, and leadership, we want citizens to be prepared to flourish as business people, as religious leaders, as professionals, as lawyers, as doctors, and everything in between. Second, following fall, we're going to offer a great books program degree. So it's something that I think would be a great continuation to the degree that you all, the programs that you all are offering in your K through 12 space. And then third, we're going to move towards a BA in classical education and then a master's degree in classical school leadership. As was discussed a lot earlier today, Mr. Tawney talked about some of the challenges. Teachers and leadership, huge challenges. And so I see this as one of those, people like to talk about win-wins. I think the civic centers in relationship, especially with the classical K through 12 space in Ohio and elsewhere, is a true win-win, where we're going to be able to provide you with teachers and leaders. You'll have students who will come and get a worldview-aligned, cost-effective education. And it's going to be a give a chance. I'm sure many of you have had this. If you haven't, you will soon. That you'll have a family or a student who wants to go to Cleveland State or Toledo or Wright State or Miami or OSU, and yet right now maybe you're hesitant to say that's a good idea, even if there are good reasons to go to one of those universities. Maybe they offer a program that you can't get anywhere else, and so you've been reticent to affirm that direction, and now you're able to affirmatively say, hey, that's a great idea, and it's also really cost effective as well. So the centers are building out over the next 3 to 4 years to be able to partner with you in that robust way. And I've got other things to say, but I want to go back and let John ask the panelists more questions.
Yes, thank you. So Do you want to say anything about specific plans for your center with the K through 12 world?
Maybe just one thing each, so that way we can get questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we also applied for this same federal grant. We also have a slightly different variation on the same sort of thing. We're going to be paying teachers to come to Cleveland State to engage in 2 consecutive summers of seminars on the founding documents of our great nation. That'll also be peppered with 6 one-day-long seminars throughout the year, and it will be accompanied by a mentorship program and also a sort of a master teacher who will be there to help them apply what they're learning in the seminars to the work that they're doing back in the classroom. It's not specifically designed for classical schools, but classical school teachers would be a huge asset to that program. Once it's up and running. Hopefully we'll get the grant. If not, then we'll probably do a smaller scale version of the same thing, but I'll turn it over.
I probably talked twice as long in the first question, so I'll let Lee talk some more.
I just wanted to affirm something that Peter had said earlier, and then maybe we can move to questions, because we only have 10 minutes left. I want to stand in front of you in the reception, and that is, all of us are building out, and we're all interested in serving you. Please help us understand what would serve you best. So if you have the chance, and also for what it's worth, our emails are all on the web, so if you have thoughts later, you're like, oh, I should have said this, please email us, and we're happy to take that in consideration. So maybe with that, we could ask for audience questions and suggestions.
We are a startup of a classical school this fall, but we happen to lie in a community college or regional campus district up in Marion for Ohio State University. I want to know what we can do as a school to advocate for our Department of Education that's on that campus to be responsive to what you're doing in your part of Ohio State. I know you're talking about this new degree coming, but what can we do to advocate for increasing interest in educating young education majors in the classical design?
Yeah, I'll say a few words and feel free to follow up. So I would say that there are 3 key audiences for us right now. So one key audience is the state of Ohio. So to the extent that you think that having centers of schools of civic thought that serve your students in similar aligned educational opportunities, you should, when you meet your elected representatives, say so. Second, I think that our respective universities, for you all live in different parts of the state, if you have a university that's near you that has a center of civic thought and you run into an administrator or you run into a professor, describe the need that you have and then try to engage them with working with one of the civic centers. The third thing I would say, and this is following up something that a proposition that Jake had talked about earlier, I do think it's fair to say that there are reasons why you haven't seen educational opportunities like the ones you're seeing now coming out of higher ed earlier, and it reflects back to what I had talked about at the beginning of my remarks, which is that there are questions being asked, answers being given for which K through 12 classical education or citizenship education just aren't relevant to what most people think is valuable right now in higher ed. And so I think that's a very charitable way of saying that I think that primarily looking towards the centers for support for your educational opportunities is probably going to be met with a very positive reception, and not to not encourage other people, and please do so, but I think looking towards us for that support would be valuable.
Yeah, we are working on developing these partnerships. I was just going through the majors of the people in our classes. We have to have some education, elementary education majors taking our classes, and we are working, but it is a long-term reform is difficult. So I mean, just if you think of just all the layers of bureaucracy that you need, and it's there's certain kind of wounds you get that you need sustained pressure for a long time before you get the platelets coming to help out. Just be patient and be persistent, and 2050, 2070, we're gonna have something good. So, and pray, right? I mean, this is we're just secondary causes.
I don't have too much to add to what these guys said, but I think it would be, it's worth noting that Department of Education, I've only been at Cleveland State since June 1st, but the very little contact I've had with that program, I'd say very few of them are familiar with what classical education is, and probably would look at you like you had three heads if you even started talking about it. So yeah, baby steps. One thing though about public higher education is that we are answerable to the people and the people's representatives. So eventually, if enough letters are written, if enough, if you contact your representatives, that will eventually, and of course with the help of our civic centers themselves, we will get this on the radar of the people who are professionals in educating educators, and that's going to happen. They're probably not going. It's going to come right out of left field. At least at Cleveland State, it's going to come out of left field. They're not going to know what are you even talking about. But they're going to have to reckon with it eventually, because I mean I can see in this room that you are an unignorable force, and they're going to come face to face with it.
Thank you all, and everything that you guys have been discussing for the future sounds great. I'm curious, events like this that are for the benefit of school leadership and other events and seminars for the benefit of teachers all sound great, but I'm curious if there are any plans for programming possibly for high school students. I'm thinking, of I believe places like Ashbrook or the Witherspoon Institute have summer seminars on the founding or natural law for high school students. And I'm just curious if, there may be the opportunity for programming like that locally for us.
For the record, you are not a plant. I did not, but we next summer we're planning to. That will be an element of our simulation exercises, and definitely, we want to get some actual high school students as we're training the teachers to do these simulation. Just get some particular people, and no, we're gonna definitely have a summer program of some kind. We would have even without the Department of Ed spur. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is in the cards. We're a little bit behind OSU as far as this kind of a program goes, but probably not next summer, maybe the summer after. There will be either a week-long or maybe a 2-week-long. It's going to be something very much like a summer great books camp. So this will be for probably, they would be rising seniors, so people going into their grade 12 year to sort of get a taste of what they could expect to find when they come to Cleveland State and major in civics, culture, and society. I think this is a great, one of the nice things about this is it's a very easy sell to our administrations, because these people go back, they tell their parents, I want to go to CSU because they got this great program, and I had such a great time at this summer camp. So hopefully this will be something that just kind of pays for itself and really does bring a lot of blessings back to the center, as well as brings students to OSU, to CSU, and the other 3 centers who would not have even otherwise been students at these institutions. So.
I'm just curious if any of you are, I don't want to say nervous about, but you're essentially trying to restore the pillars of Western civilization in institutions that are largely about dismantling them.
Preserving, not restoring.
I'm wondering if there is any, when you look at 2050 and 2070, if the Chase Center for Civics is going to be run by guys who are, adherents to the Frankfurt School, or if there's a risk for that, and if not, what do you think can be done to prevent it?
That's a great question, and so it actually goes back. Jake had characterized what he called Sullivan's Law. I actually heard of it previously as Buckley's Law, but whoever made the law, right? So the way I would characterize it is mission-aligned organizations, unless they focus on mission, will drift from that mission, and that's exactly what you're saying, Dan. And so I think one of the innovations, I was actually talking to Eric. Is Eric still in the room from Arizona? And SCETL, the School of Civic Economic Thought and Leadership out at Arizona State, was the first one of these civic centers. And there's been an iterative process over the years in response to that. Not that SCETL has lost its mission alignment, which it hasn't, but just being aware of that. And I'm, on this side of the veil, as confident as one can be, I think that the structures that we've set in place will identify continuously people who are aligned with the mission of the respective civic centers. And it's through a multi-tiered set of mechanisms of people who are identified as mission aligned, and then identify replacements for themselves who are also mission aligned.
Yeah, so it's a little like the question, what is a culture? It's something that can survive the replacement of parts, like the ship of Theseus. So we're just planks, but the shape of the thing in theory, should hold together even when we replace one generation with another. As you know, if you look at the history of higher ed, it's human beings being what they are, things tend to sometimes have trouble. But we're doing our best.
Maybe just one or, oh, I'm sorry, Peter, go ahead.
This is, I'll just add very quickly, this is, of course, one of the reasons why these centers are so controversial and why our host institutions, it has tested their magnanimity to a great degree. I'll just leave it at that.
You were using the term mission aligned, and I just wondered if you could talk a little bit more about that, particularly in the case of, when you think about the word civics, culture, and society. As a 96 graduate of OSU, go Bucks, I certainly had exposure to civics. I teach at University of Akron. I have colleagues that teach at University of Kent. I have a colleague at Cleveland State. So I'm just wondering what you think that's going on in those places, which is essentially not mission aligned. If you could speak a little bit to that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Let's just say a few words, maybe not focus on what's not mission aligned, but what we do that we think is mission aligned. So citizenship education, as I understand it, is giving people access to the knowledge, the skills, and the disposition, reflective patriotism, that allows them to flourish as citizens. And that knowledge comes from all the disciplines, not only the disciplines, but all the disciplines. So we have faculty from history and law and English teaching on our faculty to help our students have, for example, when it comes to English, the class that we're going to offer starting this spring is the Great American Novel. Not being offered at OSU, should be offered, now will be offered at OSU. Skills, so Peter had talked about engaging in civil discourse, so focusing on that as one of many skills that are necessary for citizenship, and then a disposition towards your political community. And so what we're doing, I characterize as complementing the good work that's already going on in higher ed, and we're adding something that is important for our society at this point.
All right, thank you. We're out of time, but round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I know I learned a lot. Actually, one of the things I wanted to highlight was Jake had made the point about technology influencing us, forming us, right? That was one of the many, many things that I had learned in terms of thinking about our own classical school. How will we take on that perspective? And so I hope you as well found this to be a learning and engaging experience. Heather Morris, with whom you've all been in contact, is going to be sending out a survey. We'd love your feedback, what you thought worked, what you thought didn't work, things that we could do differently next year when we have at the same conference, different day, different time, whatever it might be, different panels, different subjects, different people on the panels. We'd welcome all that feedback. Please join me in a moment. I'm going to say some names and then ask for your applause for some of the hardworking folks who helped make this conference possible. So Dr. John Spiegler over there, Heather Morris right over there, Molly Holland right over there, and then Molly Wormke over there from CSS and other CSS staff. So please join me in thanking them.